Well, it seems like sex scenes are a divisive subject with audiences, and it seems like it's also a divisive subject with the actors and actresses who are doing sex scenes in TV shows and movies. And we just saw this story that Brian Austin Green, who was a main cast member in Beverly Hills 90210, one of my favorites, was personally hurt by his ex-girlfriend's sex scenes in a TV show that they were both on.
He was with the beautiful and amazing Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
Yes. He says that her doing sex scenes with other actors specifically played a hand in their relationship falling apart. And this, I think, goes against everything these people say about sex scenes, that you have to be free, uninhibited, it's totally professional, it doesn't have any strings attached whatsoever, it has nothing to do with their real feelings. And based on his own account, that is not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also interesting because we hear a lot about today when they talk about intimacy coordinators, about just how mechanical they want to make it, because they want to coordinate everything down to the very last movement, right?
Right.
Lest somebody get accused of sexual assault or something like that. No hands wandering wherever. It's weird as more and more of these scenes are filmed, because maybe not in movies, but in television, it seems like these networks really, really need these things to be in there to bolster ratings. I don't know how. I feel like you'd want as many people in the room as possible, but if you're watching shows with your family, do you really want sex scenes to just come out of nowhere, right?
I don't think anybody wants that. It would be weird if they said they did.
But it does feel like one of these things where all of the stories talk about how, because for instance, when Neil McDonough said that he won't even do scenes where he kisses another woman because of his religious convictions, he gets made fun of.
Yeah.
Well, did he say it was his religious
I think he did.
convictions
Yes, he did.
specifically?
Yes.
I believe he said that it was like a religious
Because
thing for him.
there
He's
were
a devout
other
Catholic, and
there were
he's-
other examples where it wasn't having to do with religion. It was just like, I'm married, I'm in a committed relationship, and that doesn't
From
feel
him
right
specifically?
to me. But there were other examples like Chris Evans, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's
other-
always religion. I personally, for me, it's that I'm not even married. I just have a girlfriend, and the most I would do on camera, is kiss somebody, and not with tongue.
For some people, that's even too far for
Yeah.
some of these professional actors. And when they make a statement like that, they're accused of being unprofessional about it.
Yeah, which is just stupid.
They want chemistry. They want to see it. They want to record two people falling in love for real. And that's like, if you're that actor and you have someone at home that you're dating or married to, and you're supposed to go fall in love with this person, that's like, that's going to rip your relationship to shreds.
And Neil has talked about how he was denied roles for a while because of that conviction, because of that stance that he had, because like we said, he's not free enough, he's not uninhibited
Well,
enough.
yeah, that's to what you said, Ian. That's a method of acting, is you have to submerge your subconscious and make it one with the subconscious of the character you're playing. I don't know if I really believe in that, but having no experience doing it, I don't know. You're supposed to really actually feel what your character feels. So if you're actually attracted to your co-star, that seems like an issue for your relationship in real life.
I like the idea now that like all the best actors are going to get screwed, because to be really good at your job, they're going to have to pretend to be attracted to all these ugly women they're hiring now.
Well, for Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney, who just made a rom-com together, Anyone But You, the rumors were flying that
they were
getting a little bit too touchy-feely, and Glenn Powell's fiance, who is also a supermodel, by the way, she has no reason to think like Sydney Sweeney is her competition, but she left him.
Emotions are not rational though, so
They broke up over this,
I didn't
allegedly.
know that they broke up.
Like Glenn Powell and his fiance, they broke up, and it didn't break up Sydney Sweeney and her fiance. Not sure why, but this is a real phenomenon.
I mean, I have an idea of why.
Two reasons why.
Well,
Easier for a supermodel to leave her actor fiance and go get another actor fiance than it is for
sounds like
a producer
Sydney
to go and get
Sweeney's fiance
another Sydney Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney's fiance is just like a normal finance bro.
Yeah, I think he was a producer on the movie, if I heard correctly.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah, that's what I mean. Is it's going to be a lot harder for him to go find another Sydney Sweeney than for her to go find another Glenn Powell. You know.
Let's listen to Brian Austin Green's interview on the TMZ article.
Okay, here we go.
Tiffany came on. Poor fucking Tiffany.
Whoa.
We're far enough in.
Tiffany came on. Poor fucking Tiffany came on the show. I'd never been in a real serious relationship before. I was incredibly jealous every time she would fucking have to work with anybody else, because we'd already been doing the show for 4 years. I was like, this is my family. This is, you know, I used to bring Tiffany to events, so she knew everybody from that. And all of a sudden she's, you know, doing like sex scenes and shit with people that were like my family and my brothers. It was strange.
That's weird.
So I remember like I was very, I was really just fucking jealous and like boisterous, and like I made it really hard for Aaron. I made it really hard for Chuck Rosen. I made it really hard for people, because it was like I was trying to, without making demands, make demands of like, you know, don't do this again to me. Like, this is, you don't have to do this. Let's do, you're like really putting fucking pressure on people. And now looking back on it, I can't imagine what that was like for her.
Right.
I can't imagine what it was like for her being with me for 3 years at that point. And then all of a sudden being on set and having to do these scenes, but then having her fucking boyfriend, who she lives with, by the way, freaking out the way that I was. But like, I cannot imagine.
That's also just
So
growing pain.
he's kind of blaming himself
Yeah.
for feeling that way, when I think this is a normal human reaction, and celebrities have no idea what an insulated and strange culture that they're a part
Yeah.
I
of.
think he made similar demands of Megan Fox.
Do you think
He was
when they
married
were
to
married?
Megan Fox for like 10 years, so
It's still unknown, right? Like what was behind that divorce.
yeah.
And 3 kids as well in the mix. Very sad.
When did they get divorced?
2015 or something like that.
Weird.
Or maybe that was when they got married.
No, they got married before that. But yeah, who knows?
It's just so weird to be like, oh, it must have, you know,
Like,
on the
I
one
was
hand,
the
like,
problem.
I do get how, like, you could compartmentalize and be like, all right, I do understand that must not have been fun for her, that must have sucked, but you don't have to blame yourself. It's not your fault. She didn't have to take the job. Like, you didn't have to stay on the show. You could have threatened to leave the show, but there's not a ton you can really do. It's not, like, necessarily your fault that you were upset. Like, you're allowed to be upset.
This is like part of a broader issue where men aren't really allowed to make demands of women that they're with anymore.
Well, isn't he also kind of just taking account of like responsibility for his feelings and saying,
For-
like, look, I felt that way.
Yeah.
And the demands I was making of her within our community were considered unrealistic.
For men outside of Hollywood, what this boils down to is like, are you going to let your GF hang out with her male friends
Yeah.
alone?
Exactly.
That's the relatable part of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, no one's girlfriend is out there doing sex scenes with other actors in Hollywood. That's not normal and not relatable, but a lot of guys talk about this.
Yeah.
Did Brian get her the job, or did she just
Yeah, I
get it
think
herself?
he said that like he was part of
In a sense, he brought it on himself. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe he, at the very least, brought her around to, like, parties. But
Also, I saw this headline from Kate Winslet saying that she wishes when she was doing sex scenes, there were intimacy coordinators at that time in the industry. Now these are common practice. You can't do sex scenes essentially without having an intimacy coordinator on set, making sure that no one gets an HR complaint. But she said she had trouble standing up for herself, so she needed someone to be in her corner. Which is obviously telling, right? The HR intimacy coordinator has to be in the corner of the woman.
Because the HR intimacy coordinator
So-
will always be a woman. There are that I
the
can
male,
guarantee
the actor
gender-
is always going to be the potential aggressor.
There is no gender parity in intimacy coordinator jobs.
I also feel like if you're in that position, how can you possibly have any sort of real chemistry on, or even show chemistry on camera, if everything is so like manic? Like, if you're gonna put yourself in that position as an actor, it seems like the kind of thing you should only do if you're okay with the little accidents that might happen, like a hand goes somewhere it's not supposed to, or
Yeah.
you know, like,
Well, it boils down to whether they attribute malice to the
Yeah,
hand
exactly.
going there. And depending on how much of a feminist you are, you may see malice there where there might not be any.
yeah,
Right.
it just seems like handing her
somebody
a
asked what
waiver would be
in-
appropriate.
Somebody asked what an intimacy coordinator is. An intimacy coordinator's job is basically they're like the director, but for an HR department who is there to make sure that all parties involved of a sex scene
Yep.
feel as comfortable as possible on set. It's pitched as an idea where it's like, oh, they make the job so much easier. They're good for not getting sued.
You see, when an HR consultant and a porn director fall in love, they have a baby, and that baby is an intimacy
When they have a
coordinator.
special hug.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. a special coordinated hug that is very carefully
think-
scripted and logistically planned.
Do you think intimacy coordinators coordinate their own intimacy? Do you think they're like in the
They-
bed, like,
they
all
can't
right, now
stop.
put your hand here.
Leave it at
Don't
the
touch
arm.
They
that.
have no work-life balance. They take the coordination into the bedroom.
She gets home and she makes her husband sign a form every single time.
I think that here Kate Winslet is just saying the quiet part out loud, which is that most people are clearly uncomfortable with the idea or the reality of simulating sexual acts on camera for millions of people to see. That makes people uncomfortable unless they've been totally desensitized to doing it, which is not a good thing, by the way. So I think the real conclusion you should come to is let's not do that. Let's not simulate sex on camera because everyone involved clearly finds it uncomfortable and violating.
I say just make them sign waivers and be like,
And
look,
what happens
Or
happens.
hire a couple of porn stars and do body doubling.
that's what True Detective did.
Like,
that's what True Detective did. They just hired adult film stars because
That's what Game of Thrones did.
Are they going to sue? Probably not. You know, it's what they do.
The one girl in Game of Thrones who's like the redhead at the beginning of the series, she's a prostitute or whatever. Like, there's several scenes where she's got to be like full frontal nudity, like simulated sexual stuff, and they just hired a porn star who looked like put together enough to be a Hollywood actor.
Yes.
Like, and they just went, okay, you do it.
Yep.
We'll find a porn star with acting chops and put her in the role, and they did, and it worked.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.